Cloaked in the shadows.
Okay, Amanda, what are we doing today?
We're doing Cloaked in the Shadows.
Yeah, episode number 7. Now, this is going to be a slightly shorter episode than we were doing recently, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we've got a number of episodes on the go, and I wanted to just release this episode straight as when it was. So, we talked the other week, Amanda, didn't we, to a wonderful lady called Sunshine. And shall I tell people who Sunshine is?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sunshine is a psychic medium, soul healer, spiritual advisor, shadow worker, eccentric witch, practice magician, recovering alcoholic, and founder of Sunshine Meetings. A busy lady. Yeah, no, we had a really good chat with her, actually. Really, what did you have? She was really nice, wasn't she?
Yeah, I'm not going to get too much of her, but she revealed something very interesting about what she sees, because it's not just limited to ghosts, but you have to listen to the interview to find out what exactly that is.
Yeah. Now, one fun bit that happened in this podcast was, after we stopped recording, was at that time we were recording this the other week, you were doing a complete rewatch of Supernatural, the TV series, weren't you?
Yeah.
And what was she watching at the same time?
Supernatural.
Yeah.
I was almost at the end by then, so I think she was a bit further back.
Yeah, I think what she was watching, is it season 15 or so, wasn't she? So that's why. But yeah, they said we had a really good chat with Sunshine. I found her a very informative lady, and I really enjoyed this podcast as well. So we didn't you, but the people will as well, won't we? So
yeah.
We'll see you all afterwards then, guys. Take care. See you in a bit.
Cloaked in the shadows.
We've got the wonderful Sunshine with us today. Now, Sunshine, we first spoke, what, 2 or 3 months ago, was it? It was a bit back, wasn't it?
I would probably say, yeah, it was maybe end of January, beginning of February.
Yeah, it takes a basis though, so we get booked up. I can't always get people on a weekly basis after they were spoken late. Well, I've got to eat and sleep. So now, obviously, Sunshine, I'm going to pass the mic over to you now. Tell us first of all about yourself and about your background. And, as I always say, who fired the starting pistol?
Yeah, who fired the starting pistol is a very interesting question to ask a psychic medium. So I'm Sunshine, the pink-haired psychic medium is actually what I go by. And gosh, now I go, are you asking the first lifetime I was ever a mystic or a psychic? Or are you asking this one in this lifetime, right?
Amanda, should we ask about...
I think for now, stick to this one.
Stick to this one,
okay.
Then tell us about the other ones.
Good,
after this current one, we'll do it that way. Okay.
Yeah. I know that one a lot better than all the other ones. I believe I have had a lot of these gifts since I was a young child. The question that I think most people are really curious about is when did I start doing it professionally, right? And so I have professionally, meaning, and by professional, doing it in exchange of something of value. It can be a barter, it could be time or anything. It can be money. For over 3 years now. So it was January of 2020 that I decided to start doing it professionally. And the reason why, right, what started that pistol was in October of 2019, I admitted that I was an alcoholic and I could not drink anymore. I couldn't. And so on my path of sobriety, I started to step into my own spirituality and started to really acknowledge and accept who I was in a way that I had kind of kept cloaked in the shadows for many, many years, right? And through that really became, this desire to start, using my gifts and seeing what was possible with it. And so, yeah, that's what started the gun, was me getting sober.
No, respect you straight away because of being an alcoholic, because I've got Amanda knows really what I'm in a band, and there's nothing to do with Cloaked in the Shadows, but my lead guitarist is an ex-alcoholic as well, and the crunch point is, and I suspect it must apply to you, is the hardest thing is admitting you've got a problem straight away, so respect you for that one straight away. Amanda.
Yeah, I have a question which is about your Reiki healings, which from what I can understand you do remotely, and I wondered how does that work with the person not being there?
So pretty much any any individual that is certified in up to, the version of Reiki is Usari Reiki, up to level 2, is going to be able to do things from a distance. There's an actual attunement that you get when you're certified that allows you to breach any distance between you and your client, so to speak. So that is how it happens. There's a little bit in the mystic and the strange and the unusual that you have to, maybe believe in the impossible. So for me personally, a lot of me is like literally picturing their astral self right in front of me as though I'm doing the work directly on them in my presence.
Anything else you ask about that, Amanda?
No.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to jump into nature. These are the two of us doing this. We'll jump all over the place now. I should have asked you a moment ago sometime. This is shit brains showing now. This podcast now got X-rated because my memory's terrible. Now, you're obviously hinting before about obviously talk about your current life now. Can you tell us a bit more about these past lives? Like, we should clarify that before we move on to my next question.
Oh, my past lives. Yeah, I have, as a psychic, and I open up what is referred to as the Akashic records, this written history of past, present, and future, so to speak. And so I know I have been identified as a witch in my past lives, as a healer, as a what would be called someone called like a medicine woman. I've always I've seen a lot of lifetimes where I've walked a unusual path compared to many other folks. And so, it's nowadays, the way that I look at it is I basically call to all of the experiences that I've had, all of the gifts that I've had, all of the knowledge that I've ever had, and can access it right now and here today, if that's what I chose.
No, excellent. No, I do believe in the past lives, and I know you do as well. So it's something that I know we're both really interested in tonight. It's interesting, really, because I want to talk about you, Will, Sunshine, really, but I know we both know we've lived before anyway, so, and that's how we've even been told before as well. We're up by two different people now. Like, we've been married before in past lives as well, and it's something that's always interested me straight away now. People obviously want to research you, they will know about sunshine readings. There's actually 3 of you involved in this, isn't there? So, do you want to tell us about how you met your 2 colleagues that you co-run sunshine readings with?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to I stepped onto this spiritual path after I got sober, and I started to adventure in other places and explore other things. And I found, first off, Robert has been around for a while. I found people wanted to be mentored. As I said, I've had the gifts for many years, and so Robert reached out to me as a mentor, and so I started to help and started to help him step into his gifts and learn how to leverage and use them. And at some point, as the business continued to grow, I threw it out there. Are you interested in joining the platform, joining me in the business? And he said, yeah. And so time is a weird concept for me, maybe 2 years ago. And then Inaisha joined me just within this last 6 months. I met her in a spiritual program, and same thing. She wanted to be mentored, didn't know how I, got the confidence to step into doing this. And she'd been reading tarot cards herself and for people for years. And so, and not on there, but that is a big component of what I do, and what my own spiritual calling is to help find these people that want to continue to do this and grow their own gifts. So that they both kind of stumbled across me through the mysterious ways of the universe and have joined my my lovely mission to help the world over here.
Do both of them live nearby you, or do they live a bit of a distance?
No. Inaisha is actually in New York City. Robert right now is in Providence, Rhode Island. And next month, Robert is actually moving closer to you guys over into the UK.
Oh, is it really? Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
You're going international then, aren't you? Sunshine Readings International then.
Oh, so I actually say I am internationally known. I have clients from all over the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know Amanda's going to know. I'm going to let Amanda come on to the next question in a minute. Well, tell us about how far away your clients are. Are they all over the world, literally then? Oh, wow.
How do I find my clients? originally I spent a lot of time on Facebook and in social media. And so people would stumble across and find and be drawn, liked my energy, the way I communicated. And I'm pretty brutally forthright and honest with what I say. I have a crass mouth, you know. So that's how. And so people would just stumble across me, and I, lo and behold, I'd find I'd have people from India to Australia to there's a couple of the islands down in the Caribbean, and then of course all over the U.S. and Canada as well. So it's the internet. It's an amazing thing.
But no, it really, really is strange. I agree with that. Do you find then, offset? I'm curious in this one. Is like when you're doing all these readings, people in other countries and different time zones, like you must think yourself like you're having to deal with people from completely different backgrounds, aren't you? And does that reflect how you do your readings sometimes?
Sometimes. So a lot of sessions that I do will pull, like when I'm getting information and insights, there are certain situations or metaphors that come up, right? And I have run into instances that the metaphor I'm being given is not like culturally reflected in like some of the other areas. So at that particular point, it's kind of interesting. I'll ask my guides, how do I better communicate this? And they'll actually often they'll tell me to go Google something. And lo and behold, it'll take me down the path of finding the metaphor that actually relates to them. And then we can communicate. So yeah, it definitely, it's the cultures, not so much the time zones and things of that nature, but the culture and their experiences and what they would relate to that sometimes causes those challenges.
Yeah, I believe that.
Right, so my question is there anything specific that you need to do to prepare for readings or healing sessions?
I did a lot more when I first started, very intentionally. So I had a ritual that I'd written, which included like incense and candles and, calling and working with a couple of deities and things of that nature. And after about a year of doing that and realizing how much time that took, and how it like I wasn't always able to do it in all situations. Like when I'd be out and do events, when I would actually go to people's homes, like I wasn't carrying full altars with me.
I imagine carrying full altars on your back everywhere.
I know, right? I know. And so I went and I found 3 images that reflected the prayer and the intention and the deities, and I had them tattooed on me.
Wow. Whoa. Wow.
So I now have multiple. Those are the first 3, but I have many tattoos that now have ritualistic intentions put into them to allow the kind of like spell work behind them to always be with me and charged.
How many tattoos have you got on yourself then, Sunshine? Then you got loads now, have you?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Probably about 15.
I know Amanda's got one of them, haven't you? So we're obviously not like that. So I've never had the guts to go and do it. I'm too much of a coward. She called me, what do you call me? A typically cowardly male, don't you? So no, brilliant. Okay, this kind of next bit I want to talk about kind of moves on from that direction because your website obviously refers to you as a great eclectic ritual witch. I want to learn more about this next then, okay? So can you tell us about how you got to this stage and wasn't it sort of like, because I've done level 1 in Reiki. I've various reasons never did level 2, but I'll tell you about that off mic, right? But you would have had to have various sorts of training, I presume, at that stage, wouldn't you?
I mean, I don't have outside of the Reiki certification, there's no other like certifications on it. Now, how do I claim? So witch, I've been exploring witchcraft since I was 16, right? I stumbled into my first metaphysical store and went, oh my goodness, there's a whole other world out there that I'm not aware of. My own personal beliefs are, more aligned when it comes to magic, is that it's really hard to claim to be white or dark only. Like, walking a gray path is a much more, in my own personal opinion, a much more truthful approach to life, because life is not all black and white. Let's be real, right? Life is just not. It's better, if you kind of recognize there are multiple shades of gray. And so, I will, will not hesitate to, pull in what some folks would say, maybe some darker type of magic. If I see real injustice in the world, like I'm not going to hesitate if I see children, being abused to, try to just, pull in just So I do walk a line that some people get a little bit uncomfortable with too, but it's judgment's all based on the scenario and the situation. And eclectic means if you were to go and look at all of the various different forms of magic that are out there, I do not call from one form. I pull all of my work intuitively. And so I may do chaos magic, crystal magic. I may do, magic just using the elements, or candles, or just fire, or, so it's just whatever I'm intuitively called to do. And the ritual portion of that means I believe in the power of repetitive and formal structure behind my magic.
Have you got anything you want to talk about that? So?
No.
Okay.
So do you think that anybody can develop psychic or healing abilities?
I absolutely do. Not only do I believe it, I also know that is part of my responsibility in this world, is to help people recognize that within them, that they have the gifts themselves, and start to understand how to leverage and use them and strengthen them. So yeah, there is not a single person that I have met in my life at this point that I would say does not mean they all want them, right? Because there are some challenges with the gifts. There definitely are. But yeah, I believe every single individual has psychic abilities, and every single person, if they chose, could strengthen them and use them to help guide them in their own lives.
Is there anything else you want to ask about that? So I've got a supplementary question about that, certainly. Yeah, like it was in relation to this then. Obviously, like if you can see, can you see these signs of people almost straight away? Then can you, or does it take a reading sometimes to find it?
Say it one more time, Andy.
Yeah, sorry, the signal bounced then. 1 second. Right, yeah. In relation to this, Sunshine, when you're doing, can you see these sort of things of people quite quickly when you're doing readings, for example, or does it take time? Can you elaborate then?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna look for it if people don't ask me to look for it. I'll tell you that, right? I'm not gonna go and just like walk up to a random stranger on the street and tap them on the shoulder and tell them, So my first clue is anybody that is curious about it. Do I have it? Like, that is your absolute sign. Like, yes, that's an answer. Like, you have no blockages between, those gifts besides the one that you're putting there right now, right? But when people sit down, and I do this, I actually work a lot of public fairs and events, and I offer a psychic ability analysis, and I ask them, tell me why you're asking me this, tell me why you're interested, and usually within that 1 minute story that they tell me, I can tell them what their strongest psychic ability is, as well as how they need to leverage and use it to help, to strengthen it and use it in their life. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Now, obviously, I'm going to ask a personal question on this now. But obviously, don't name names, okay? But have you had it where, what's been the strangest one you've seen in this sort of thing then, affecting people's psychic ability? Have you ever seen someone that come in and you're thinking, wow, like that?
Aliens. I have legitimately seen extraterrestrials.
Wow. Can you tell us a bit more about that then? Because I'm really cool, but we're both
oh my goodness. Yeah, I do these these events, these virtual events, and they're like, I call them my low cost option. Like, I will advertise this. Anybody can stumble across. And so I have, this group of eclectic folks sitting there on Zoom, and this gentleman, I was like, okay, what's your question? and I don't remember word for word what his question was, but the moment he asked it, well, he's like, he leads it with, he's like, this is going to seem really weird. And he asked the question, all of a sudden I see them and I'm like, it's like, oh my, I was the first time, like, I've seen ghosts, I've seen spirit, I've seen like, and that was the first time ever seeing an ET, and I'm like, because they're like, I think I have an extraterrestrial that's hanging around me, and I'm like, oh yeah, you do. And so I proceeded to talk to them and ask them about themselves, and so I've seen them a handful of times since. I have no problem with loved ones, spirit guides, anything of that. The ETs always just kind of shock me because they are energetically.
What did they look like then? If you don't mind me asking, what did they look like then, Sunshine? These ETs.
What do they look like?
Yeah. With that human
all,
shape, it's all a bit different.
Yeah, they've all been a little bit different. They all, some of what they've told me is their shape really doesn't matter, because most of the time when they're here, they're traveling astrally, right? So they're not like physically here, they're actually astrally traveling to us. And so their physical shape, like the most recent one, which is totally like, and I just kind of laugh, and their response back to me was like, this is what you humans think we should look like, was this like humanoid figure that kind of just ever so slightly kind of like glowed. And it was like translucent enough. And, I laughed because I was like, oh, like Slimer from Ghostbusters. And they're like, and so they're like, yeah, and they're like, we could be anything, it doesn't really matter, because like I said, they're here astrally, but we've given shape to them, it's not their shape, right? So like they show up in the ways that humans feel like they should be represented. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. So they don't show themselves to me unless somebody else asks, because they're strange to me. They're a different energetic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Now you caught me. I wasn't expecting you to say that one about the aliens or the ETs. Definitely, did it catch you out? Yeah, didn't it? Now, the last but one question I've got to ask you. Don't you got more questions? Didn't Amanda did. Was obviously, I know you said on your website as well, you're also a practiced magician as well. I want to learn a bit more about that, because I'm very, very interested in magic as well. So, where did the interest in this part come from?
Yeah. So I've not figured out like the clearest way to always describe the difference between being a witch or a magician. And they're very similar, meaning witches themselves are often going to be leveraging and using spell work through like the elements and the external forces of the universe, versus a magician often is going to try to leverage and use those same elements within themselves in order to bring about. So magicians tend to focus a lot more on the alchemical processes around magic, where witches themselves tend to often focus more so on the things that are external around. That's the easiest way that I've been able to kind of describe the two. So from a magician's perspective, when I started on that spiritual path, it became very obvious to me in getting sober that was a very big solve, right? That was a huge breakdown of me, right? That was me destroying everything that I once was, and now needing to move into the coagula and rebuild who I was. So that's the practice magician piece.
It makes sense. Now, as I always do in my own podcast, Spoken Lately, I always wrap things up with two very brief questions. Do you have any plans where you envisage Sunshine readings going next?
I love that you asked the question. So we have been actively in the background beta testing what I'm referring to now is Illuminate, the Unschool of Magical Psychic Arts. Yeah. So I'm creating an unschool. If you're familiar with the unschool concept, an unschool is from homeschooling. I don't know where all it exists, but it's this concept of student-led programming, meaning that the students themselves, in essence, get to pick and choose what it is that they truly want to learn and what the programming entails. And so starting down the path of, it'll be introduced here at the end of the month. to be honest with you, as Illuminate the Unschool of Magical Psychic Arts. After 4 semesters, which is a total of 1 year being in the school itself, you'll become a certified psychic witch healer. At that point, once you are an Illuminate alumni, you can actually join the Sunshine Readings platform as a illuminated spiritual advisor at that point. So the same way that you saw Robert and Naisha up there, anybody else would be able to do that. So that's what's coming.
Good to know. Good luck with it, definitely then. So hopefully in a couple of years' time, you might have about 100 people up there, and if you're lucky then. Oh, brilliant. Good luck with it. Now, I always love this word because it's not really, but we do the hard sell now. So where can people obviously find out more about you, Sunshine, to wrap up?
Yeah, so the business's name is Sunshine Readings. You can find me at sunshinereadings.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram, even on Pinterest. I always recommend, if you are interested in learning a little bit more, there is a fabulous opportunity called the Witching Hour, which is a free live virtual event that I host once a month. You can come on and join me live on Zoom and a handful of other folks, and I just lead a magical conversation, whatever is the topic for the day. So
yeah,
I would love.
Didn't notice that. So how long does this go on for normally, the Witching Hour? Is it literally the Witching Hour, like a full hour itself normally, is it?
No, it changes. All of my offerings operate by the cycle of the moon, depending on where the moon's at. And so the Witching Hour, I forget which moon cycle it falls on, but I believe it's that quarter moon towards usually the end of the month. And if it's on a weekday, it's 7 p.m. Eastern. If it's during the weekend, it's usually 12 p.m. Eastern. So those that are in the UK would be better be able to find something that was in the unless you're night owl. That's the folks. My international folks are all these night owls. These folks that are like up at 2.
Amanda is. I'm not. I'm using. Well, I don't always sleep through. I'm using bed for 11 o'clock and sleep through to 7. You don't, do you?
I wake up at random times.
So, do you know what? Maybe you've seen Amanda clicking on. You know why? But really, well. Thank you today, Sunshine. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this today. I know Amanda has, because I can usually get up Amanda's body language if she's hating this. So, but it's been a pleasure. So, thank you today for me.
Thanks. Cloaked in the shadows.
Wait, that's not the interview again, Amanda, didn't it? So
yeah, it was a little bit different to your typical type of medium.
Yeah, do you know when we were talking to her, whenever we're doing podcasts, the voice before and after, you often talk about doing setup and why closing down, aren't you? But I found her a very thoughtful lady and I really enjoyed chatting to her, so really, really interesting. Okay, guys and girls, that's the end of this episode. I said it's slightly shorter on this. We do have another episode coming up in June, so we will reveal that shortly to you, won't we? So, say bye, Amanda.
Night, night, everyone. Sleep tight. Cloaked in the shadows.